Now, Zuma says Zondo is biased and has created a persecutory environment. Persecutory environment. But how will the decision affect the work of the commission? Either way, let's discuss this now with legal expert Nthabiseng Dubazana, who's joining me now from Johannesburg. Nthabiseng, good morning to you. We don't know which way it's going to go. I called it yesterday. I said the Deputy Chief Justice is going nowhere slowly.
Well, you're probably right that he's not going to go anywhere. The application itself, for me, where I stood, it kind of lost ground at some stage. It felt a little bit flimsy. It was a little bit weaker than the letter that was issued earlier on. That letter that was issued had more ground, in my humble opinion, that, the bias that is being shown is that Mr. Zuma is being treated differently to other witnesses. It seems that he's being targeted in a certain way. You see, that route for me was like, okay, maybe we have something to work on here. But now everything else that has been put forth in the application makes me wonder, I don't understand what it is you want the DCJ to do, because if you're saying that witnesses are now being used to target you and be prejudicial against you, let me make an example with the criminal court. My client, the accused, all the witnesses that are going to appear before the court are against him. I know that for a fact. So I can't now ask the presiding officer to now say he must recuse himself because he's allowing people who are going to be against my client to testify. Although this is not a criminal court, we are basing it on evidence that is placed before the court. So the relevant people who are involved in this thing have to be called to come and testify. Whether they implicate you or not does not mean that there's any bias against you in that regard.
Yeah, now we understand from those arguments that were made on Monday that the burden for a recusal, or the legal burden for recusal, is a big mountain, to climb. I guess the DCJ has to be very careful in how he responds, particularly because he had a statement himself where he refuted the claim that they could be friends with the former president, but also the former president, we understood yesterday from Advocate Kakane that he's also got an affidavit now or another statement to clarify this friendship.
But my issue will then be the friendship between, if there is a friendship that is between the DCJ and Dr. Zuma, it would mean that the chairperson is now biased. If it will be for him. Do you get what I'm saying? He will
I get you. Yeah, that's the point I was wondering. Now, if you say somebody, you've known each other and you say they're biased, it means that they're treating you with kid's glove.
Exactly. You're being treated like an egg, and everybody else should be complaining about how you are being treated better than they are. So their friendship should not be a reason for the DCJ to recuse himself. It would be in the fact that maybe he has a relationship in another form, perhaps maybe the witnesses that are within the commission, whereby the relationship there is the one that is causing him to act in a negative way towards Dr. Zuma. So that friendship and that relationship should not be a reason for him to recuse himself, because it would mean that he has a positive relationship with Dr. Zuma and not a negative one.
I wonder what kind of legal standing this relationship they are bringing to the fore. Why would they want to raise it, number one? Number two, if it's not the only thing, I mean, you can't stop. The witnesses have come and gone. They were on the stand, and they were responding to other allegations of state capture that they had been implicated in. And then they mentioned the fact that the former president was also involved in one way or another. You can't blame the DCJ for that.
No, you really can't. And getting back to your question about the relationship, I don't know why it has been raised. If it was the other parties who were raising it, I would understand. For example, in a criminal court, when the prosecutor is now aware that the magistrate or the presiding officer has a relationship with the accused, then she would request that the magistrate recuse him or herself, because at the end of the day, when judgment and sentence will be done, they'll be biased in the sense that they will give the accused a better sentence, or even acquit him instead of convict him. That I understand. But this one, I don't understand where we're going with this one. And then regarding the actual commission of inquiry, let's say for argument's sake, he does recuse himself. And if he does recuse himself, in a normal trial setting, it would mean the trial has to start de novo. So we can't now go back and spend billions and start this thing from scratch, because you remember he has to give recommendations and outcome of the commission's inquiry. So now it's supposed to be happening in March. If he recuses himself now, then it means we have to start from scratch and somebody else has to do all of this thing all over again. It's going to be a very messy situation should he recuse himself.
And if he doesn't, should we expect a protracted legal review process that the former president will then begin to institute?
Most likely. I wouldn't put that past them. In fact, I think it would be the first thing they do. Once the recommendations are out, they're going to start then and start the review process. Because remember, it's not like he's being sentenced. This information will then be used probably to open a case against him, etc. So he can ask that the recommendations and the outcome be placed on review.
And sitting there on the stand, today we understand the former president is attending a funeral. He requested to be away today, and then of course we're going to have to wait and see what the ruling is. And the DCJ did indicate that dependent on the ruling, he would expect Mr. Zuma to be back on the seat tomorrow, because the commission had set up the whole week from the 16th to the 20th for this hearing. If he takes the stand on Thursday, he might plead the 5th.
Yeah, he might, but then I think it was actually strategic of the DCJ to postpone this hearing to 3 p.m. because funerals don't go until 3 p.m. So he's probably expecting him to be present when he gives out his decision or judgment on the application for recusal. Because I don't think it's a good idea for you as the applicant to not be present when a judgment of your own request is being done and you're not there to hear it. And you're not there to put in any questions and object or whatever the case may be. It doesn't make sense to
So
me.
you would advise, if you were in that position, you would advise your client, Mr. Zuma, to be present this afternoon.
Be there this afternoon. Hear this for yourself, so you don't hear it third party. And right then and there, if there's anything you need to raise, once it's done, you can stand up and raise your voice.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Thank you very much, Nthabiseng Dubazana, for some of your insights about this very interesting case that's gripping the nation. But we have to wait until 3 o'clock this afternoon to find out which way it's going to go. I called it yesterday. The DCJ, the Deputy Chief Justice, is going nowhere.